Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order Tuesday, July 22nd, 6 p.m. Town of St. Mary's Council Chambers. We are streaming live on the Town of St. Mary's YouTube page. The Council for the Town of St. Mary's acknowledges with gratitude and respect that we are gathering on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, people of the Longhouse, giving thanks for all creation. I'll begin this evening by asking for declarations of pecuniary interest, starting with Councillor Craigmile.
None.
Councillor Edney.
None.
Councillor Luna.
None.
Councillor Lucas.
None.
Councillor Pridham.
None.
Councillor Alward.
None.
And I have none. The agenda was circulated. There are a few changes. I'll maybe defer to the clerk if you could outline, please, just some of the changes. There's some pages set on your desk here, and if Jenna, you just please explain the reasons for some of the changes, please.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, you do have 3 bylaws before you this evening. Number 44 was already listed on your agenda. However, we've parsed it out into 2 separate bylaws. Remaining as number 44 is the stopping up and closing of St. George Street South road allowance, as well as the Jones Street East road allowance. That was at the advice of our solicitor. And then the part that was moved into bylaw 46 is related to the declaring of surplus lands, as well as the authorization of the agreement of purchase and sale for those 2 lands that we discussed in bylaw 44. Bylaw 47, it has come to my attention that we've not passed an appointing bylaw for the deputy treasurer. We'd like to move that forward at this time. And there was a statement in number 3 that we've asked council to consider appointing the deputy treasurer, the interim treasurer, as of August the 20th until further notice. So that's before you. The agenda has been amended. When the mayor puts that resolution on the floor tonight, in addition to bylaw 44, it will be 46 and 47 for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions? Basically procedural, just to clean up in terms of with issues we'll be dealing with this evening. Any questions with that? Everyone okay with that? Okay, so I'll seek a motion that the July 22nd, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be accepted as amended. Someone willing to move that? Moved by Councillor Luna, seconded by Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item number 4 is our public input period, a chance for anyone in the gallery or to submit questions online. I have not received anything. Our clerk, have you received anything online? Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to ask a question of council before we begin this evening? Okay, thank you. Then we move on to item number 5 is delegations and public meetings. This evening we have a number of people from the St. Mary's Library Board that wish to present council with regards to Volt Toolbox. So Sarah and Cole, welcome and thank you for coming this evening, and the floor is yours, please.
Well, thank you very much, Council, for having us come before you tonight. On behalf of the Library Board Chair, Cole Atlan, and myself are here to just share with you the results of the Valuing Ontario Libraries Toolkit that we were able to use this year, and we wanted to share the results with you. In the council package is a short report, as well as an infographic that's going to display on the screen for those at home who wish to follow. The Valuing Ontario's Library Toolkit is a way that libraries can now communicate with both their councils and the public as a way of explaining the social return on investment in libraries. The St. Mary's Public Library offers the community a wide range of rich services and contributes to the community in a whole variety of ways. Our work is guided by our strategic plan and our 5 strategic pillars, which are building strong community, diverse and accessible collections, dynamic and accessible spaces, fun and inclusive programs and services, and engaging and supportive lifelong learning. So as you see on the infographic, perhaps most significantly, the social return on investment from the funds that are invested in the library is for every municipal dollar that's invested, the return is $4.50. So that's a significant turnaround and investment of the funds from the town into the lives of our residents. We serve the population, the whole population of St. Mary's, and that means that we have to make sure that our program services and collections are quite diverse. We do receive a small grant from the province of about $10,000, but the massive contribution to our library is from you through the municipal contribution. We know that our library is loved. We had 55,000 visits in 2024, which works out to about 21 visits per hour while we were open. 57,589 visits were also made to the library through our databases and our catalog. The library computer workstations were used about 2,500 times in 2024. Those computers help people access their web email, create documents, print government documents, stay in touch with family and friends, and develop their technical skills. Our mobile Wi-Fi units were borrowed 63 times, providing people with Wi-Fi access in places which they wouldn't normally have it. And staff provided tech assistance to patrons approximately 416 times. The library also builds social connections in our community. We offered programs that support early literacy, makers, education, and newcomers, all for a whole variety of age groups. In 2024, we had 5,757 people attend 335 free programs offered at our library. The chart, the circular chart in the infographic breaks down the contributions, the social return on investments by groupings. And I just want to give you a little bit of a sense of what each of those groupings are. So I'm going to start in the top left corner, entertainment and leisure. So the social return on investment in that category is 2,260, no, I was right the first time, 2,262,146. This number reflects the value of reading for pleasure that libraries facilitate. It includes our fiction print materials, our fiction audiobooks and ebooks, our music downloads, our fiction DVDs, and our programming. The space social return on investment is $224,518. The benefit of offering the community meeting space at the library is captured here, as is the economic value of library visits and the availability of seating to occupy while using the library. There were not a lot of rentals in 2024 due to the space being used for other purposes, but 2025 has already seen a very busy year for meeting room use, so there will be a growth of this year over year, especially when we look at the 2025 stats. The next category is inclusion and well-being. Inclusion materials, including materials in our collection that are available and of interest to a wide variety of people and accessible, is not just reflected in our collections, but also in our workstations, the software we provide, and the fact that we provide wireless access. The next category is educational development. This includes opportunities offered to the community through our nonfiction collection in a variety of formats, including print, ebook, audiobooks, nonfiction DVDs, and interlibrary loans. And they're offered for a wide range of age groups, from children through to teens and adults. It also includes an array of digital databases that we provide, including consumer tools, language learning, encyclopedias, readers' advisory tools, health and wellness resources, and newspapers and magazines from around the world and in a variety of languages. This category also includes the services that staff offer the community, answering questions, and providing direction to resources, and supporting them in their pursuit of information. It also includes programs offered to our community in a variety of formats and to a variety of age groups, including early literacy, summer reading, reading skills support, and teen programming. The civic engagement category demonstrates the value of volunteer hours contributed to our library by board members, volunteers, and unpaid students and co-op students, contributing to the success of the library. This value also includes our partnership with the Friends of the Library, our cultural, educational, government, social service partnerships through the community. All of the work that the library done, all this work cannot be done without the regular and generous support of the Friends of the Library. In 2024, the Friends contributed $20,000 to support added enhancements to the library and large numbers of hours, holding book sales, market tables, supporting movies in the park, Heritage Day, and advocating for the library. Some members of the Friends of the Library Executive are here with us tonight. In Council's presence, I would like to thank the Friends of the Library for their untiring support. Present tonight is Reg Quinton, Chair of the Friends of the Library Executive, and Heather Greenis, one of our new executive members. So welcome. Cultural and regional identity category includes visual art, music, language, as well as a wide range of elements that shape local living. This category includes non-traditional library collection. That's our snowshoes, our park passes, our seed library, our video games, our tennis rackets, our board games, and our kayak use. It also includes our language learning software and genealogy database, as well as the programs we offer and participate in around culture and heritage. The final category is the local economic development. This category includes the benefits of employment, training, and development that circulate within the community. It also includes the impact the library offerings have in our collections, our programs, and our services to support development. Although this tool is very helpful for libraries to communicate the social return on investment, it's not really intended for comparison between municipalities. However, I did want to give you tonight a sense of Stratford's SORI. So where our number comes in at $4.50 for each dollar invested, Stratford's comes in at about $6.64 per invested. However, remember that Stratford's population is 27,000 people greater. They receive $40,000 more from the province through their operating grant, and they invest $2.4 million more into library services. The size of your staff, budget, and the amount of programming space matters as to what a library can turn around in social return on investment. Still, our numbers are excellent. There are things that we can't do that other libraries do. For example, we have decided to not duplicate programs that are already offered by other town departments. Right now, we identify that Early On does an excellent job at doing preschool programming in our community. Therefore, that is an area of programming that the library doesn't do. But there are many other ways that we do contribute to the community. And we hope that in the ways that we support the adult learning program of Perth, but that falls outside of this report. So the library board would just like to share these numbers with you. They're very happy with the results. We will continue to use this ongoing year over year as a way to communicate what the investment in the library means to the community, and we will use it as a means of talking to people about library, the value of the library. I do want to also take the opportunity while I'm before you to invite you to contribute to our strategic plan survey. So right now, the library board is collecting feedback on our strategic plan survey, and it's available on our website. Your feedback is very valuable to the library board as we prepare to write the next plan in 2026. So please take the opportunity to complete that and to share with residents that we would like their input as well. That is the conclusion of my comments. Cole, would you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to add, I mean, I think that the numbers that Sarah's gone through sort of show the impact that this little library has on our town, right? It's significant. And it's sort of it's a time for us to sort of brag and say, look at what we have achieved, look what we can do with what you guys give us every year. It's paying dividends in our community. And I want to take that moment to say, you know, I was at a party 2 weekends ago, and I was sitting with this woman, and she was like, I'm moving into Perth South, and the thing I'm most excited about is being close to the St. Mary's Public Library. And I said, are you kidding me? You're talking to the right lady. Because she had no idea I was the chair of the board. She had zero clue. And I was like, well, I'm going to take that home and put that in the in the back pocket, because sometimes I think we talk a lot about, you know, it's a challenging economic time. We are aware. We know this. We know how many people are coming in every day to use the pantry and use our services. But I think what this report does is shows you that the return on your investment and the way that it impacts the lives of those people in our town is really significant. And we want to thank you for that investment and the support. And we also, I think, really want to thank the Friends too, because without their contribution, and that's a tireless effort, that those, I mean, some of those days out in the heat or, you know, putting up the projector and pulling it down at 11 p.m. and all of these things that they do, that allows us to offer even more services to the community free. You know, we have reptiles coming in to, you know, they're paying for those services for us to enrich our community. So I just want to take that moment and thank you guys for the support. I know things, you know, there's always going to be budget conversations. There's always going to be those things. But I think this is a really, really good tool for you guys to have in the back pocket to know, oh, yeah, this is paying significant dividends to our community in a real way. So thank you for that. And thank you for giving us the time to chat. We're going to try and come in more regularly with things like this, like when we have our strategic plan information, so you guys can hear what the community is saying and thinking and all of those things. And also, thanks, Sarah, because Sarah, you worked tirelessly to keep this operation a really terrific success. So thank you for that. That's all.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, and thanks as well to the Friends of the Library for coming this evening to support the presentation and for work you do. I'll open up questions for Council. Councillor Luna.
Thank you, Worship. The population served, that's just St. Mary's. What about Perth South? Would that not skew the numbers a little bit?
Well, this is, sorry, through the mayor. That's a great question, Councillor Luna. So because of the situation with the contract with Perth South that was non-existent for part of 2024, we didn't include Perth South this year. We will probably in the future, because this year we do have a contract, and so that will change the numbers a bit. But this year, this is based solely on the contribution from St. Mary's Council and the population of St. Mary's.
Sorry, the 50,000 they contribute also isn't in that municipal contribution. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Further questions?
I have one more.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I don't know if Mr. Moran is on the line, but I seem to remember one budget year that the household contribution to the library out of total taxes that they pay is, at the time, I think it was $75 roughly. So that benefit per household is huge then if you take that into consideration.
Sarah, if you just say.
Through the mayor, for the purposes of Mr. Moran, the benefit per resident comes in at $561.
Andre, just to confirm, is that about the correct number?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I know Sarah and I have chatted about some numbers in the past, so I'm sure it's pretty close.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I had in my head too. Thank you for that, Andre. Okay. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Alward?
Thanks, Your Worship. No questions for me today. As a library board member with some insight into this process, I guess I would commend Sarah for the amount of data entry and input you had to put into the Volt tool. I know that it was not easy, so I do have a deep respect for that. And I think at council, you know, we kind of center ourselves around numbers to inform ourselves with the reality that exists before us. And having things like this, I think, is very important because even if, you know, maybe you can't get right to the brass tacks, I think to have an idea of the social return on investment, especially in comparison to places like Stratford, as close as they are, I think that will be key going forward, and hopefully the Volt tool will only continue to improve. So thank you very much.
Okay. Councilor Pridham?
Thank you. I too will chime in a little bit. When this came to us, I was skeptical, and so I had to get in and dig deep and understand it completely before I could give it support. And I feel that it is a supportable document, and I'm looking forward to that every year Volt production of what we and how we sit and stand. So anyway, thank you for doing it, and I think it's a valuable tool for council to see how the money is spent and where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pridham.
Further questions, comments? I guess, you know, you mentioned that Perth South was left out of it, but I'm sure there's some validity. I know when Councillor Corby was on the library board, he had a lot of questions about this, about spin-off effect and stuff. So maybe we can maybe modify it somehow to share with Perth South, because I respectfully, I don't think there's a deep understanding at their council table about the spin-off effects. And I don't know if we can modify this or just share when you build it in, because that certainly he had lots of questions. I mean, he was passionate about the library, but he had lots of questions about spin-off and what it meant, and maybe some of this, I don't know if it can be tweaked or what your thoughts are on that we can maybe avoid some of the, I'll say, headache that we experienced.
Through the mayor, yes, I think the document as it stands, that we can say this is what the St. Mary's Council has contributed to the library, and this is the return on investment, even before we look at the 2025 contribution. I think it speaks really well for what they purchased from us, and what hopefully return on investment they see for the contribution they've made. So I think this document as it stands will be of interest to them, and it is definitely something we can share.
Perfect.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be well received, actually. Yeah.
And I think one of the challenges is that it's very hard sometimes for people who aren't library users or who don't know library users to understand the contribution it makes. So this is a sort of tool that can really speak, hopefully, to those folks. I mean, I think probably everyone around the table here is either a library user or knows someone who is in the library on a regular basis, and so how much it impacts their lives. So, but a tool like this can, for those who aren't through our doors, through our portal, can maybe give some insight and clarity. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anything further from council? Okay, thank you both for your presentation. We appreciate it. And to the strategic plan survey is on the town's website, just so everyone's clear.
Through the mayor, yes, it's on the library's
On the library's?
website, and the town does push it out on a regular basis, but the link is there. You can complete it online, or you can come into the library and get a print copy if people would prefer that. We have both options available.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, thank you for coming this evening, much appreciated. Okay, so the suggested motion is that LIB 22-2025 Valuing Ontario Libraries Toolkit Volt 2024 results for St. Mary's Public Library report be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Lucas, second by Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All is in favor? Motion is carried. All right, so the next section is with regards to minutes, and as everyone's aware, our agenda looks a little bit different, and the clerk's department is trying to get old guys like me to use less paper and be more efficient computer-wise, so we will break this into 5 motions if everyone's acceptable to that. It's a little bit different than we have in the past, but the first motion would be with regards to 2 sets of minutes, June 24th, 2025 regular council and July 15th, 2025 special council. The minutes were circulated. Are there any errors, omissions, or problems? Okay, seeing nothing, I'll seek a motion that the following meeting minutes be approved, June 24th, 2025 regular council, and July 15th, 2025 special council. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconded by Councillor Edney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. The second motion would be with regards to the Strategic Priorities Committee meetings. There was 3 basic items that we will deal with, but the first motion would be that the July 15, 2025 Strategic Priorities Committee meeting minutes be received and that minute 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 be raised for consideration. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, seconded. Councillor Luna. Any discussion with regards to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And as a result of our discussion at strategic priorities, the first motion is dealing with the corporate and strategic priorities. We had a lengthy session with regards to those, and the motion would be that staff report back with a proposed final list of corporate and strategic priorities at the August regular council meeting. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Luna, seconded. Councillor Craigmile. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. The second item was with regards to pre-budget discussions. We had a lengthy discussion on budget. And so as a result of that, it was suggested to council, the motion would be that staff be directed to bring forward the necessary report to council to shorten the amendment period for the mayor's 2026 budget from 30 days to 10 days at the first council budget meeting in October, and the staff direct the staff proposed budget focusing on a 4% tax target. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, seconded by Councillor Pridham. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. The next item with regards to Egan Ave traffic control and service level adjustment. There was quite a lengthy discussion with regards to controlling traffic in that area, and the result was a suggestion to council that staff be directed to engage in discussions with the Huron-Perth District Catholic School Board regarding the town's ability to provide daytime coverage for crossing guards for Holy Name of Mary School beginning in the 2025-2026 school year, and report back to council, and the staff be directed to report back on traffic control solutions that may improve pedestrian safety in the area of Holy Name of Mary School, i.e., for example, level B crossings, additional stop signs, etc. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Pridham, seconded by Councillor Lucas. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next up on the agenda is item number 7, correspondence. I received a personal note from Senator Black, whose wife is a former St. Mary's resident, and he is advocating with regards to impact on Canada's soil, economy, and environment. The letter was in your package. Is anyone wants to speak to this notion? Councillor Luna?
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering, are we going to find out how this relates to St. Mary's? Because we don't have agricultural land per se in our town limits. So I'm just wondering how this is significant to St. Mary's. Like, should we support it? I don't know.
I mean, that's up to council. I guess the interpretation was with regards to food security, agriculture costs, and so forth. I mean, we are an agricultural community that is a service, so that was the idea. Because we service a lot of agriculture area, you're correct, we don't really have much in the way of agricultural land, but the idea is whether we're willing to support the movement with the notion of food security and costs and protection of agriculture. Councillor Pridham.
Thank you. I was looking at it through the eyes of Upper Thames Conservation Authority, and if they're aware of this report, that, maybe they have local initiatives to demonstrate the proper and best practices for preserving and that sort of thing for our lands. And I'm curious about that, and at least they should get a copy of this. And I wouldn't mind forwarding the idea to support it, so I would put that motion forward.
Okay, Councillor Pridham will move to put the resolution on the floor. Would there be a seconder? Councillor Alward. So the resolution as printed, with the only suggestion that it would be, the alteration would be Perth County, municipalities, and Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. Was that the intention, Councillor?
Yeah, I think so. They
Okay.
basically who they've got outlined in this first one.
Yes.
They did, in this one, do the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks as the third from the top.
Yep.
And so probably the similar list, but making sure that our local authority gets a copy of it.
Okay.
Because they have land holdings, and they're agricultural land holdings, and they do plant crops every year and all those things. So maybe they should be looking at being the starter and initiating that awareness for our local area farmers.
I'll defer to Councillor Craigmile if I can, please. Can you speak to whether there's been discussion on this matter?
Thank you, Worship. All I can tell you is, I'm not sure what's in front of us, what they really mean by soil or whatever. I don't know what compounds they're looking at, or, all I can tell you is that I know that in the local communities around us that are within the Upper Thames watershed, there's large programs for phosphorus reduction. There's many rebates out there for different crop covers, and Perth County especially is taking advantage of a lot of that. And there's other things for planting trees so you prevent wind erosion and things like that. So I do believe there's a lot currently going on locally from Upper Thames as far as maintaining the soil quality. So that's about all I can tell you. I mean,
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, and that is may very well be so, but just making them aware of this report. I don't know if they've received it, and it couldn't hurt if they, had a new lens or something, if that's what that produced.
Okay, anything further? So I'll just read the motion then, moved by Councillor Pridham, second by Councillor Alward, I think it was. The resolution, whereas the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry published a report in 2024 titled Critical Ground, Why Soil is Essential to Canada's Economic, Environmental, Human and Social Health. The report that contained 25 recommendations in total for the federal government, and whereas the work that Senator Black has done to bring not only the importance of soil to the forefront for the federal government, but Canadian agriculture and specific Ontario agriculture, food security, and how much the Ontario agriculture industry contributes to the federal and provincial gross domestic product is critical significance to Perth County, indeed all of Perth County. Therefore, be resolved that the town of St. Mary's fully supports all the recommendations included in the report, and that the town of St. Mary's urges the Government of Canada and Province of Ontario to implement all of the recommendations contained within the report and commit to recognizing a sense of urgency and act accordingly in order to protect and conserve soil as per recommendation 25. And further, this motion be circulated to the following parties: Rob Back, Senator; John Nader, MPP; Senate Standing Committee on Agriculture and Forestry; all municipalities with the County of Perth; Perth County Federation of Agriculture, Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. Councillor Luna?
Should Matthew Ray be added to that?
Oh, that would be an amendment to Matthew Ray. Councillor Alward, would Matthew Ray be appropriate? Yes. Okay, so we'll add that. Okay, anything further? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to reports. First up is the July monthly report for administration. Mr. Kittmer, please.
Okay, so thank you, Your Worship. So just three very brief updates out of my report. So I just wanted to speak to 14 Church Street and the downtown service location review. So at our last meeting, I had made council aware that the committee had completed their work and had sent a number of comments back off to our architect to make changes to the conceptual layout for 14 Church Street. I'm happy to report that we have received a next draft as of this week. So staff are just getting through the fine strokes of comparing what the architect has provided us versus the comments we provided back, but we believe it's very close. I also just want to make council aware that, again, our goal is to have that conceptual layout presented to council on August 26th, along with the final report, which includes a draft or a concept operating plan, how we might operate the building on day one, well, along with budget estimates. But before that, during doors open on August 9th, we will have 14 Church Street open, and the intent is to have the draft concepts printed off in large poster format and available for the public to see. And if we're able to organize it, we'll also have the layout painted on the first and second floor so that you could conceptually walk through the building how we conceive it today. In terms of other projects that we're working on, I just wanted to make note of council that you'll see a regular update in my reports now about our service land review. And again, I'm happy to report that we're moving along very well on that project. The functional servicing report by BM Ross is well underway. Planning review is well underway, and we've completed archaeological as well. And finally, I just wanted to make a note about PC Connect and the ridership. So you'll note that for this granting year, you've seen a drop in ridership anywhere from 70 to 85 rides per week, or excuse me, per month. That's not unexpected. When Perth County ended their route, we knew that there was probably a certain amount of riders who were using the intra-Perth to connect to the inner city routes. But just given how the on-off data works with the app, it's very hard to tell exactly who's getting off where and when and where they're going. So this is starting to give us a decent indication of what that impact of Perth County ending their route is on our routes. So I just wanted to make that a note and just try to assure council that there's nothing to be alarmed with. Before I open myself up for any questions, I know the clerk has a couple of updates in her portion of the report as well.
Thank you. Council, 2 points that I wanted to make this evening. First of all, with respect to the refreshment vehicle bylaw, there was a vehicle that has just been licensed in the town of St. Mary's. They plan to operate once per week, that's Wednesdays. It's a taco refreshment vehicle, and it is located on private land serving to the public on James Street South. So they've met the requirements and they have been fully licensed. They'll be licensed until the end of this year. The second part about refreshment vehicles, there was another vehicle or trailer specifically that was brought to our attention. They were operating on public lands at public events without the knowledge of the town. So we did contact that owner. We explained what the requirements are of the refreshment vehicle bylaw and what that owner would need to do to come into compliance. Once the requirements were noted by the owner, they've decided to no longer serve to the public, and we've not heard anything further at this time. So I believe they have permanently ceased operations. The second point that I wanted to bring up was cemetery lands. There is information within the monthly report that's before you, but I know that there's been a lot of communication as well, probably directly to you, out in the public, and then through our social media channels. So this has been a hot topic with new information, but the big question continues to be why now? So to justify the why now, a bit of history, those lands have been active cemetery lands up until they were closed by the Board of Health on December 31st of 1885, so a little bit before my time and I believe all of yours. So after that, all burials in St. Mary's were happening at the new lands which are owned by the town of St. Mary's. I make that statement because the lands at Eastward Park are known as the former St. Mary's Cemetery, but they were not owned, nor are they owned currently by the town of St. Mary's. They fall under the town of St. Mary's license, but Eastward Park is actually broken up into 3 parcels owned by 3 different churches still to this day. The reason this came on to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario's radar, and they're the operating authority for Ontario for everything to do with funerals, burials, and cremations, is because we are undergoing our cemetery master plan currently. And while we were trying to review what options are available to us, during discussions with the BAO, it became known by them that there was not just passive recreation being conducted at those cemetery lands, but active recreation. And when it was identified that there are 2 baseball diamonds and also a playground, their recommendation at that time is that we cease operations. So we have gone about doing that. We do not have an order at this time. We wanted to show good faith that we were willing to work towards compliance rather than having an order provided immediately. So staff have gone about moving the current operations of Ball to an alternative location. Again, we don't have an order provided to us yet, but we are in constant conversation with the BAO. And what has been told to me is that our small municipality of St. Mary's is a frequent topic of conversation at the BAO amongst their managers. So having been told that, I would not be shocked that we will get an order and then we'll work towards that compliance. Until then, the ball diamonds will remain as they are. The park will remain as it is, and we will wait for further direction on what we need to do. At that time, I'll bring back a full report to you so that we can understand what needs to happen, what timeline, and how that will happen. But in the meantime, we can begin to work towards transferring those lands. We'll have some conversations with the local churches so they understand what's happening, but they are not the owners either. It is provincial and federal ownership that is happening throughout those churches. So we will reach out to the appropriate contacts, make them aware of the situation that they still own those lands, and many churches, not all, but many churches have been moving towards transferring that ownership of land because they don't have the capacity to manage the requirements under a license. So that is what we're going to continue to do prior to receiving guidance, direction, or an order about what we need to do with those lands. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Alward.
Thanks, Your Worship. And it may well be too early for this question. I know one of the more common questions I've gotten with regards to Eastward Park is if the play equipment can stay. So under our current interpretation, is that passive recreation?
Under the, regardless of what our interpretation is, what they had told us is they were concerned if we were charging admission fees for baseball. That was their primary concern. They didn't give a lot of guidance about the playground, but it has been alluded to since that that would not be permitted. I can tell you that as we were discussing, you know, could we add other amenities to that area anytime we would be disturbing soil, up to and including if a tree were to fall over and we had to remove it. There are very specific steps that we would have to take in order to take anything from the ground.
Councillor Luna?
Thank you, Worship. So from a liability standpoint, it's our playground equipment, but it's not on our land. So whose responsibility if something untoward would to happen on the playground equipment?
Through your worship to Councillor Luna, I'm certainly not a lawyer, nor do I claim to be, but I would assume that the municipality has significant responsibility, and if there were to be a claim, it would be the municipality's responsibility to cover that. And I'm sorry, one further point. We have looked back in records as part of this research to see if we could ever find an agreement of what was permitted on those lands. We do not see any sort of record. There may have been verbal conversation about it being turned over to the town for, now this is my terminology, passive, but park land for passive participation. So I think that just over years as individuals had the best intent to provide recreation to the community, it has just grown and it's become what it is today. So we're looking, unfortunately, I know it's certainly a shock to the community, but we're looking to fix that so that we can stay in good standing with the BAO, because we do still have an active license with them at the cemetery. And as the cemetery master plan is coming to fruition, we expect there could be recommendations how we can enhance the operations that we provide there now, or the types of amenities that we provide there. And if we're going through an application, we don't want the two to conflict.
Thank you, Worship. I have a question for the CAO. The door's open for 14 Church. You're showing a plan that hasn't come to council yet, correct? So how are you going to present that?
Just as that, as a concept. So it is a public document because we've shared it through our committee meeting process, and essentially it's another way for us to gain public input into the process, even just for ourselves to have a drawing and to look at it is one thing, but to go into the space and then have it on the floor and walk through and experience it. We're hopeful that by doing that, if there are any issues, any sort of flow issues, any sort of layout issues that we may not have understood just by looking at a 2D plan, we may be able to just to sort those out. And we just also feel that it's a better way for the public to experience it and give us some feedback on, again, what they think about it. Like, once you see that laid out and you go into, say, what we are considering the makerspace, you know, if you have 3 or 4 people standing in that, you know, painted on the floor room and you feel like it's too small, then it'll give us a good indication whether or not we've got sizes right. What I did commit to myself to doing is that once I have the final layout from the architect, as well as they're going to create some 3D renderings of what, you know, a perspective of a room might look like, I'm going to make sure council has all of that before doors open so that you know what's being presented to the public prior to it actually going public. And then you'll have, again, your ability to, if you want to join us at doors open, to walk through it, and then it may give you some better perspective for when we discuss it on August 26th.
Further questions? Councillor Craigmile?
Thank you, Worship. If I can go back to Jenna for a second on Eastward Park. So currently then, because we don't have a good definition yet from the BAO on passive versus active, are we assuming that everything in the park is through as of today, except for maybe walking through it? Is that the town's stance? Or, I mean, I think that's really what the public wants to know, where, until we get more information, is that what we're doing?
Through the chair to Councillor Craigmile, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking if we need to stop any activity on the land immediately other than walking?
Yes.
So I have not recommended that to the CAO currently, other than stopping the activity of baseball through St. Mary's Minor Baseball, because the town is charging for recreation. So if community members were to go to that area and strike up their own baseball game, if they were to go there and walk off of the pathway on the lands, if they were to go there and use the park, there is nothing that's prohibiting them currently, nor would the town or the BAO walk up to somebody and say, what you're doing is illegal. So we're going to continue permitting that, but we wanted to take the best step forward with baseball. When we had the opportunity and we had lands available to transition them to, we wanted to show good faith to the BAO that we were working towards what we are anticipating to be compliance. And that was based on some very specific questioning, such as, do you think the BAO would let baseball continue for the rest of this year? And it was very stern, because we're charging fees. No, they did not anticipate that that would be permitted whatsoever, because it went against passive use of the parkland. So we've not told anybody to stop what they're doing.
So something like the teddy bear picnic, we're not charging any fees or whatever, are we? So that's fine?
Through your worship to Councillor Craigmile, great question. We've thought about that as well. My interpretation, I do not want to disrupt that long-standing event this close to their event, and their use of the park may continue for now based on my understanding today of what they are doing there.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly, because my understanding is that they weren't going to go there this year, but Mr. Kelly?
Sorry, to your worship. Yeah, we
didn't know you
were in
guys did
contact with the event organizer, and she's going to move to the flats.
Perfect.
So we've been supporting her in that transition.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I guess in fairness to more directly answer Councillor Craigmile's question, I think we are all working with an assumption that the baseball diamonds in the playground have to be removed. I think, Jen, it's fair to say, based on your conversation with the BAO inspector, they're not going to permit us to leave baseball diamonds there to be passively used. They're not going to allow us to have a playground to be there to be passively used.
Correct. They're not going to allow us once we have more specific direction. Until that time, we are not stopping any other activity.
Yeah, we're not going to have the police out there guarding the place, but I think, like, again, the way I've best explained this to people, and even in my own mind, is think of an activity and then ask yourself if you think it would be appropriate in our current active cemetery. And if your answer is no, then it's probably not appropriate to be used at Eastward, because we have to remember Eastward Park is a cemetery and a cemetery first. And it's just that simple.
Okay, Councilor Pridham?
I've got a non-related question. It's about the parking enforcement, and I see that, you know, the Park Patrol is doing some work and issuing some tickets. But my question isn't quite related to parking. It's related to mobility scooters, e-bikes, e-scooters, that sort of thing, running on sidewalks. Are they looking at that type of issue? And I'm not even sure if which one of those complies to sidewalk use, pedestrian use, but it's been brought to my attention that that might be something they should look at. I just to bring awareness to that.
Okay. Anything further from council? Okay, so the suggestion, Mr. Kim, we have no indication of a timeline for the BAO to get back to us for clarification, because there may be some discussion at council, or hopefully there might be some back and forth with the staff regarding the usages. But do we have any idea of timeline?
And again, I'll defer to clerk because the clerk was the one who attended the inspection, so.
There is no timeline. We've received communication 1 week ago, and that was regarding the transfer of lands, and they've committed that they will reach back to us. I know that our local newspaper has reached out directly to them. They've received very similar feedback, is that they're working towards what the next steps will be, and they'll let us know as soon as possible.
We've never had good luck holding external boards accountable, that's for sure. Okay, anyway, anything further? Okay, so the suggested motion is amend 36-2025, July monthly report administration, be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councilor Pridham, second by Councilor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next up, report admin 37-2025 with regards to the public disclosure and purchase of 90 Carling Street. Mr. Kittmer, please.
So thank you, Your Worship. So Council, it's customary for the town when we purchase or sell land at the conclusion of the process to offer a public disclosure report about the purchase or sale. So I have two such reports tonight, the first being 90 Carling Street, which Council is well aware of. So just for the record, again, the town, we pursued this because it was an opportunistic purchase to address two strategic priorities of ours. One being to create a secondary access to Witter Street East, as well as to pursue our strategic priority for developing light industrial lands. So within the report, you can see the rationale for the purchase, as well as our financial details. In terms of next steps, what I'm asking of council in this report is to authorize staff to proceed with the planning approvals process for our light industrial park. So attached to the report, you'll see a conceptual layout that we believe to be fairly well vetted through engineering as well as staff, which would create 15 lots for a light industrial park on 90 Carling Street. The map also shows how the internal roadway for that parcel would then connect up to an easement that we've negotiated south to Witter Street East to create that secondary connection at some point in the future. As I've noted in the report, there's no immediate plans to create that secondary access to Witter Street East. We would have to create the internal roadway at 90 Carling first and foremost to have it properly sited up against the easement. But again, it serves and is there and ready to be developed at a point in the future when we are ready. So I'm happy to take any questions from council. As I mentioned, we're bringing this one forward for public disclosure, as well as to get council's authority to formally move forward with the planning applications for 90 Carling Street.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Luna.
Thank you, Richard. So the timing of having that access road available, what is that? What are we talking about then?
I would say undetermined at this point in time. So we are about halfway through the due diligence process for the planning applications. So I'd be hopeful that perhaps by later this year or early next, we'd be through the planning approvals process, or at least in it, and have it closed by early summer of next year. At that point in time, I think we'd be in a good spot to have a package together to start seeking out grants for this project. It'll be tremendously expensive to do this work. I know we don't have final costs yet, but at one point in time we were forecasting around, Jeff's on the line, I think it was like $3 to $4 million to bring services to the property, and then about the same to do all the work internally. And I think when we talked about this previously, this is one of those this is one of those projects that'll be a great opportunity to go forward and ask the province for a grant for, because it, it supports economic development, it supports our own growth and sustainability. And I think it's one of those ones that we probably don't want to go forward on our own and do it and finance it ourselves without that provincial dollars. So it would just be fully dependent on if and when we can get a grant fund.
Further questions, comments? Councilor Lucas?
Thank you, through the mayor. I'm just more of a comment. I'm happy to see the layout of the property after, our preliminary drawings and stuff like that. I didn't really have an understanding of what we were going to end up with, but looking at that and having a potential of 15 light industrial lots, I think is awesome. But I would again agree with you. I think we need some cooperation with the province and the feds to try and fund this project.
Further questions, comments? Councilor Howard?
No questions for me today. I'm quite familiar with this project after so long. I guess all I would say about this is that I'm very happy to see that the town is taking a long-term stance on securing industrial land. As the new guy and the young guy on council, it is encouraging to see all the old politicians in the room thinking about us years from now. So I think this will be an excellent project. Thank you.
I don't think he's talking about any of us, actually. Thank you. Okay, anything further? I mean, this is the type of thing that the province has been pushing us to do, and it'll be interesting to see. There was money actually recently in Stephenville and other municipalities surrounding North Perth as well. So this, I think, will be a strong candidate for provincial funding. If it isn't, I know my votes will be changing, actually. So anything further from council? All right, so the suggested motion is that admin 37-2025 public disclosure purchase of 90 Carling Street report be received, and that staff be directed to proceed with the planning applications for the necessary approvals to develop 90 Carling Street into a light industrial park, and that the CO be delegated the authority to sign documents related to the planning applications for 90 Carling Street on behalf of the corporation. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Edney, second by Councillor Luna. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, next up, item 8.3 with regards to agreement of purchase and sale for St. George Street. Mr. Kittmer, please.
Okay, so thank you, Your Worship. So again, another public disclosure, but in this case of a sale of land and at a slightly different point in the process. So under our land sale bylaw, council does have the right to directly sell land to one person or entity. But if you are doing it and it is road allowance, you're required to consider the agreement of purchase and sale in open session and accept any representations from the public either for or against the land sale. So that is the point we're at right now with our selling of two small portions of land to Kingsway Lodge. In the report, you'll see that we are selling a part of the current St. George Street South, as well as an unopened portion of Jones Street East. We have negotiated an agreement of purchase and sale with Kingsway Lodge, and it's attached to the report. So we are now proceeding under Section 10J of the land sale bylaw and making the agreement of purchase and sale public prior to it being finalized, and giving the public the opportunity to make comment. Just for council's note, the adjusted purchase price for the land is $95,000. Kingsway is looking to close on August 29th of this year, and there's just a couple of unique portions of the agreement as it relates to this deal. So we do have underground utilities in the portion of St. George Street that we're selling. So we'll be asking for an extension of an existing easement with Kingsway so that we can access those utilities. Kingsway Lodge is also then required to grant easement to any private utility like gas or hydro who have facilities under the ground. And finally, we do need to delineate the private and public side of the water main. So a water valve needs to be installed at the property line, and what we've negotiated is to work on that collaboratively so that when Kingsway mobilizes to do some of the work on these lands, the town will perform the work and charge back to Kingsway, and we've collected a deposit for the work. So I'm happy to take any questions, but as just to make the mayor aware, if there are any members of the public who want to speak to this agreement, they have the right to do so tonight.
Okay. Questions from council? All right, so hopefully, this will, hopefully, I mean, the intention will clear up some of the issues with regards to parking and also hopefully allow for an expansion of a very important business in the community as well and service. So that was in council's intention to try and make this happen to improve the situation. So if there's nothing further, then I'll put the motion on the floor that amend 38-2025 agreement of purchase and sale St. George Street South and Jones Street East Road Allowance lands be received, and the council approves an agreement of purchase and sale with Kingsway Lodge, St. Mary's Limited for Part 1 and Part 2 of Reference Plan 44R-6238. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councilor Pridham, seconder, Councilor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.4 with regards to the July monthly report for building and development. Mr. Brower, are you with us, please?
And Council. Good evening, Council. You'll see my report in front of you. As you work through the report, there are a number of good news items within the report. One of them is, I remember your worship, you asked me earlier on within a year if we're going to meet our goal of 40, our average of 40 units a year. Yes, so this month we have surpassed that 42 units, and there are still more coming on stock, so to speak. So we are not at the finish line. We're basically halfway through the season, through the build season, and typically our November is our busier month. So we do expect some more dwelling units to come onto that to help bolster that number. So a good idea, good news story there. Another one is 11 King Street. We did have the plan advisory meeting last night for 11 King Street. Overall, there was some representation for the public that went fairly well. We do have a bit of work to do before we are ready to bring that application back to council for the statutory public meeting. But we are planning to bring that report or have that statutory public meeting on August 26th. It does help us with the summer break to have that extra few weeks in there to work on this application before it's ready to come back to council, based on some of the comments that we did have last night. And I'll open it up to any other questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Mr. Brower? Councilor Alward?
Thanks, Your Worship. Mr. Brower, just curious about the Milton Fields, that water leak around the sink in the one bathroom there. I was wondering if you knew, is that sort of like just a natural sort of leak, or was there any damage to it this time, or sort of what's going on there?
I don't have, through your worship, Councilor Arwood, I do not have firsthand knowledge about that, but what I'll do, I will talk to staff and I'll let you know what exactly happened to give you more detailed information.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Councilor Craig Mile?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Grant, can you approximate where you're at now with the community improvement program funding?
So through your worship, Councilor Craig Mile, where we are with funding, we are roughly, I'm going to say probably a third to roughly a half spent out. I do have a number of good applications in the queue that will be receiving funding, and I would expect that we would pay most of that out this year, if not coming back to council for more money. We are seeing an uptake on the residential side as far as accessory apartments, tiny homes, developments such as that, and there's less focus on the downtown as there's been previous years. And it's just nothing that we've done any different, but we have, it's just, I think that things are shifting a bit, and applicants are seeing the benefit of the program to help with the accessory apartments.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Councilor Lucas?
Thank you, through the mayor. Grant, can you just tell us where we're at with the 14 Church Street property? I keep seeing the guys there, and I'm like, I am struggling that they're still there based on what needed to get done, but I'm just curious where we're at on that.
So, through your worship, the Councilor Lucas, great question. We are getting close to the end. And what I mean by that is they were given a deadline to be done in the building When we entered negotiations with we didn't give them a timeline. So we said you can take as much time as you wanted to. We also changed the scope a little bit. We changed the floor. We made some changes along the way, beneficial for both parties. And there's lots of times they haven't been there, based on their scheduling. But they've been, from what I understand, they're going to be moved on by August 1st, in time for doors open. So what I understand, they're almost there. We're almost getting complete. But I would expect within the next week or so that they will be buttoned up and moved on.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anything further from council?
Just, Your Worship, if I could add one further point, that the other question probably that Councilor Lucas wanted to ask if we're on budget. And yes, we are still within the allocated budget that we have been. So things are going fairly well with that project as far as keeping things within the parameters of the budget the council set. So
I think we all wanted to ask that, but thank you. But thank you. Anything further from council? Okay, thank you for your report. So the suggested motion is that DEV 19-2025 July monthly report, building and development report be received. Someone willing to move that? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconder. Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried.
thank you, council.
Thank you. Moving on to July monthly report for community services. Ms. Ishii, please.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, all good.
An update for community services. I'll just go over a couple of items. I know a couple of individuals have spoke about Doors Open. The museum is getting ready for Doors Open for August 9th, so we have that on our calendars and ready for that event coming up. As far as the Aquatic Center, I wanted to give an update. We had a meeting on Monday on how everything is coming along. Things are progressing nicely. Our timeline is still on track and target as to what we have spoken about in the past for the fall reopening. Painting is complete. Windows are to be installed. The upper North Bay windows are to be installed this Wednesday and Thursday this week. So there will be some additional ductwork that will be able to go in. They're kind of waiting on the window installation for that to continue. The locker doors have been removed and have been painted off site. They will be coming back next week. Upper roofing repair will be completed within the next couple of weeks as well. And our new hangers for the lighting fixtures have been replaced. So things are moving along quite nicely. And there is nothing in the way of our plan right now. So that's very positive for us. I also wanted to update everyone on the quarry. So I haven't sent anything out to council about this, but there is signage down at the quarry. We're currently facing an infestation of zebra mussels down there. This is the first summer that we have noticed this issue, and staff are diligently scrubbing the rafts, the stairs, the rocks along the edges to help mitigate some of these issues. There have been a significant number of minor cuts so far this summer, and what we're doing is we're trying to track where the cuts are happening, so we then send a crew out right after to ensure that those areas are cleared of those mussels. We do have signage, and we've also added that to our website to let individuals know that we're having these issues at the quarry. Speaking of the quarry, so just to give you a little bit of an update, within the first 20 days, our increase of attendance has gone up. Compared to previous years at this time, we're up 15%, which is a little over 1,000 individuals additional to the quarry. July is our slower month. August is usually the busier month, but we're seeing an increase in visitors, particularly out of town, coming to the quarry right now. Just an update as well on the triathlon. So the triathlon was held here on July 6th. We did have a total of 82 athletes. This was an increase from last year. So we are looking to continue this event next year and going forward. There has also been an increase in volunteers that are interested in supporting municipal programs over the summer. So we're continuing to monitor that, but there are definitely interested individuals in the community that are willing to help out with various municipal departments. So we'll continue to see that and follow that along as well. All of our other programs, summer camps are on track, filled with wait lists. So we're seeing those programs continuing to run very well. And the final thing I wanted to mention, so the portable pickleball nets that were part of the Rec Culture and Leisure Master Plan have arrived finally. They took a very long time, and they have been put together and are down at the courts. Now, the original Rec Culture and Leisure Master Plan recommendation was to purchase 8, but if you remember, we only purchased the 4 because of the tariffs on these nets. So we will include the additional 4 in the 2026 capital. So we have the total of 8 nets that were recommended within that plan. Those are all of my updates. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Alward?
Thanks, Your Worship. Ms. Hischi, I guess I'm just wondering, with these zebra mussels, my understanding is they're not something you can kind of just get rid of in one fell swoop. They're sort of something we'll have to maintain. So I guess is the plan going forward to kind of determine how often we have to be doing this as a regular process, or what are we going to do to address this kind of on a seasonal, yearly, monthly, weekly basis kind of thing?
That is a great question. We have called the Ministry of Natural Resources. They really don't seem to have, they're really not interested in it other than reporting it. I've learned more about zebra mussels than I care to admit. So I definitely know, and we're tracking exactly how long they take to grow back, where they are located, how they attach themselves, where they fix themselves to. So yes, this will be an ongoing situation. We're even finding like the ropes that attach the rafts, or not ropes, sorry, they're chains that attach to the rafts. We have to go down and at least scrub 6 feet down, because we're finding when people swim out there, if they're tall enough, they're kicking those and cutting themselves on those. So yes, it's quite an interesting exploration, but they will be here to stay. There is no way to get rid of them. It will be part of our normal practices moving forward. Our guard team is actively scrubbing everything and checking things regularly, which is now part of their operational opening and closure every night. So we're really keeping a close eye on this. So hopefully we can keep it away from those high touch areas, and we have a better grasp of where that is right now. They're not attaching to the inflatables, which is a good thing. Maybe it's the material, I'm not sure, but that's been positive right now at this point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Luna?
Thank you, Richard. Stephanie, do you know how they got into the quarry in the first place? Like, is the UTRCA involved at all looking into this, or it's not a cross-contamination with the super splash equipment, because you just said they don't attach to them, so do we know where they came from?
So they said they could have been brought in by anybody. So somebody could have brought their floaty in from a beach, as an example. That might be an example. And that could have, or it could have come from the fishing quarry, because they are attached. So it could have come from either of those locations. No, we are unsure. And as for the inflatable, those were new inflatables that came. So they've not come from another location. They came directly from the supplier. They've never been in any other water than our water. So yeah, we're really unsure. And the Ministry of Natural Resources doesn't really matter to them where they've come from. They just document that you actually have them on site.
Councillor Craig Mott?
Thank you, Worship. Stephanie, you may want to try and, I'm dating myself here, but at least it's a little more than 20 years ago. But there was a huge problem with the zebra mussels attaching themselves to the water intakes from the lake going into the Bruce Nuclear. So they spent years and a lot of money on research. You might find something there if you, that's the best I can do with you. But that was a real problem, because they use so much water from the lake for cooling.
Thank you. Councillor Pridham?
a different type of question for you. The Early On is hosting a Wheels Around the Town event, and that sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm just wondering if it's open to anyone other than the Early On. Is it something that's going to be promoted for other kids that aren't in there?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of times you'll see families come out to these events. So while it is Early On is for children under the age of 6, often families will bring all of their children out for these events in the summer months. So that's why we often host these during the summer months. So anybody can come out and check out the wheels in motion at any point. Yeah, it's a fun event. Last time there were a number of individuals that came out.
Thank you.
Councilor Luna?
Thank you, Steph. I think we talked about this before, but the measles prevention protocols that you have in place, are you screening children? Like, how are you doing that? I'm just curious.
No, we are not. So the Child Care Center has a different protocol than camp. So when it comes to the camp program, Joanna did send out the literature that we received from the health unit to all families, similarly to I think it went out to the schools as well prior to the children being out of school. So we've sent out all of the material to families. If we notice something, by all means, we definitely contact the family immediately and we'll do what the health unit requires of us. But there's no other regulations at this point for summer camps other than informing the families and talking it through and sharing the information that we receive. So that's what we've done at this point. Prior to children coming, they'll receive that information from us that's provided by the health unit.
Okay, any further questions from council? Councilor Lucas?
Thank you, through Mayor. Steph, just to come back to the triathlon, I think it's an awesome event that is coming back because it's hard to find open swim spots that are appropriate, and I think the quarry lends itself to that. And then again, we have lots of opportunities clearly for biking and running. Is there any, and forgive my ignorance, is there any swim lanes at the quarry right now for athletes that want to kind of train that open water swim? I know lots of people that do triathlons, and I know it's challenging to find that open water in that safe environment. So I'm curious if that's either something we provide or if that's something that has anybody asked you about.
So we haven't had anybody ask us about that more recently. I shouldn't say that. Some of these triathletes that did participate in this event did come in and they would swim the length of the quarry or they'd swim along the buoy line. Prior to the inflatable being there, individuals would come out and swim the buoy line back and forth, and that was an excellent, because it was very uninterrupted. But now with the number of patrons going back and forth to the inflatable, it is a little bit more interrupted. So some people will just come in and swim from, the edge of the deck out to the buoy line back and forth, and we can give them the rough measurements so they know. I mean, sometimes they have the watch, but we can give them the rough measurements so they know exactly how far that is. We haven't had a specific request, but it is because of our open water, which is why we will attract those type of triathlons or master swim clubs or those types of things that have the possibility to utilize that space. So we used to have it, but because it's so busy now, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. I can see it being a request, especially as something like this triathlon grows, and there might be something, where we'll have to open an hour earlier and those people will have to come in and do that type of a lane swim. There's opportunity for things. So we'll see how that goes as we move forward. But I think there's definitely an opportunity that I want to leave open for that, because I can only see this event growing. Especially as families and participants hear about it. And it was a really great draw from all across Ontario that did participate in this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further? All right, thanks for your report, Steph. The suggested motion is that DCS 46-2025 July monthly report, community services report be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconded by Councillor Luna. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next up is a report regarding Children's Service Funding Agreement. Ms. Ishii, please.
All right, so I'm bringing before you the updated Child Services Funding Agreement that will end on December 31st, 2026. This agreement lays out exactly how much we will receive from the City of Stratford through social services monthly, for a total of 1.6 million for our child care services. This will take effect once we sign this agreement and will end, as I had said, December 31st. There are not a lot of changes from this agreement to the previous agreement that we signed, other than adding the additional monthly amount that they will be giving us. There is still opportunity for additional application for funding should we see it, and there still is, the enhancements that we receive. But this is the formal agreement with the City of Stratford at this time. I'm open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions with regards to the agreement? All right, seeing nothing then, I'll put the motion on the floor that DCS 48-2025 Children's Services Funding Agreement report be received and that council approves the agreement with the City of Stratford of the Children's Services Funding Agreement. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Lucas, seconded by Councillor Edney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8.7, monthly report, corporate services. Mr. Morin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. So for my monthly report, just a couple of highlights for you on the corporate communications side. Again, things going well. A big project that we have on the go right now is our website redesign and update. So again, still looking good for August 26th for go live date. So again, staff are working heavily on that one. On the finance side, a couple things. We've started doing some background work on the budget side of things. Again, based on the meeting last week, that kind of really kicked things off. But internally, we're starting to work on the budget and certainly going to dive in pretty heavy over the next few weeks here. We did print our final tax bills yesterday, and we'll be sending those out in the mail over the next few days. So the final tax bills will go out. They'll be, the first due date there will be at the end of August. And then obviously we do have some new staff that started last week as well in the finance department. So again, just doing a lot of training for our positions there. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on tourism and economic development. Obviously, Heritage Festival was a huge success. Again, the team did a great job there. I was there most of the day. I've heard all positive comments. We are surveying the businesses and having meetings just to kind of get some feedback on things. Kelly and team are getting some good information. We also are working with RTO4 to receive basically cell phone data for not only the 2025 Heritage Festival event, but also the 2024. And with that data, we'll be able to get some pretty good comparisons on how many people attended, where those people were from, how long they stayed. And we expect to bring back a report for that later this year. So likely in September or so, that will touch on, here's what the data shows, here's what our survey results are, here's what we're hearing from everybody, and kind of put forward some opportunities and some information in regards to what we thought and what we can do over the next year or so to improve that event moving forward. Other than that, everything else is pretty standard, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for your report. First off, Mr. Morin, there was a big announcement yesterday with regards to your future. Congratulations on being appointed as a CEO of Stratford. But I would like to, on behalf of council, thank you for your time here, because certainly we're excited for you. We think that's a great opportunity, but also the town has really benefited from your knowledge in updates in terms of our budget process. It's been very smooth the last number of years in terms of modernizing our technology and our IT department, as well as having a very, very robust communications department, which we previously didn't have. So I think that your leadership has been tremendous for the town, and we've benefited greatly for the time you've been here. Congratulations, and thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I know it's been a roller coaster of a day, to be fully honest with you, with the announcement going out last night. So again, obviously bittersweet. I have loved every minute of my time here in St. Mary's, and certainly will appreciate that and always kind of remember what I've learned here, the people I've worked with, and obviously you and council and Brent as the CAO. So again, I'm still here for a few more weeks, four weeks plus a few days, and certainly intend on reaching out personally to each of you as the next little while goes on, and help you through the 2026 budget, or at least get it as far ahead as we can. And again, won't be very far, and look forward to working with St. Mary's just on a little bit of a different lens. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments, Mr. Moran? We fully intend on holding your feet to the fire to get this budget done too, by the way. But, okay, anything further with regards to Mr. Moran's report? Okay, so then the motion would be that COR 26-2025 July monthly report corporate services be received. So I'm going to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Pridham, seconded Councillor Edney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item 8.8 with regards to debt financing for land purchases. Mr. Moran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one here, it's a lot of words in this report, but it's fairly straightforward. Again, earlier this evening, you got an update from the CAO in relation to the purchase of land. This kind of formalizes how we're going to pay for that land. We looked at a few different options. Obviously, the total purchase price of around $1.5 million. We don't necessarily have that in our capital plan. But when it comes to debt financing is always a good tool for, number one, new assets, and new assets that have a long life. Again, depending on exactly what we do with this land is a little different than, say, land we'd be purchasing for our own internal uses. But there will be a portion of this certainly that's used for internal uses as well. So debt makes the most sense as we move this forward. As well, to make it a little easier, we do have, through our current banking agreement, the ability to borrow up to $3 million for capital-related items. So without going through all the details in this report, I'll highlight a few items. So my recommendation fundamentally is we finance $1.2 million, which will, over a 10-year period, that'll amount to about $150,000 in annual debt payments over the next 10 years or so. As we move forward, that amount happens to be a really good amount when you take a look at the possible future of those lands. And what, again, as we purchase new assets, the idea of asset management is we should be putting money away so that we can replace those assets. So in this case, that 10-year period is a good period. We'd put in $150,000 in debt payments, and then you have that capacity of that $150,000 to continue to put into your capital reserves, which will help fund replacing those assets that are going to be in place. Again, lots to still be determined in relation to these lands and what exactly will happen there. But that number, when we rounded things out, seemed to be a pretty good number. That number one is affordable for the town's budget now, but also probably lends itself well to a future amount that goes into reserve for capital, for future capital and replacement of the assets that will be into those lands. I'm waiting from the bank to get the exact interest rates at this point in time. They're sitting between 4.2 and 4.5%, which again happens to be what we've been seeing pretty steady rates over the last year and a half or so. I know there's an interest rate decision next week, so we'll kind of wait and get the rates after next week's decision, but I don't expect things to change very much from that perspective. Again, which is where the $150,000 principal and interest payment come out. And then, of course, just the one question I know likely will get asked is where are we at with our annual repayment limit, which is what the province sets for our guideline as how much debt we're allowed to take on. And the idea behind that annual repayment limit is it tells us how much debt payments we're allowed in an annual year. And that number for 2025 is $4.9 million. So again, adding an extra $150,000 to that number certainly is nowhere near capping us out in regards to that limit. So that's the recommendation in front of you. So happy to dive into a little bit more detail on this report, but I think it's fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Luna.
Thank you, Worship. So borrowing from the bank is a better deal than borrowing from ourselves, from the PUC funds?
Through the mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor. So in some cases, yes, in some cases, no. Having said that, as it stands right now, we've already borrowed, if you'll remember the wastewater treatment plant project, the idea was to fund a good portion of that through debt. And we borrowed internally through the PUC fund there. So most of the PUC funds at this point in time are dedicated to the debt for the wastewater treatment plant. So that's how we're doing. And that interest rate is around the same amount, 4.25, I think is what we had set there. So there is no funds to borrow internally that makes sense at this point in time.
Councilor Pridham?
I've got a couple of questions. One of them is, what do you see as the plan for when lots are sold and that money comes in? Should it be applied to the debt? And is there ability to pay down the principal, and is there a penalty if we do that within the 10-year term?
Through the mayor. So again, this is where a project like this still a lot to be determined as to the future of these lands. As the CAO presented, first steps are to really make a plan forward. Hopefully, there's government funding involved, and then obviously, if they are developed into industrial lands, there'll be sales of those lands, etc. So that's why instead of going to, let's say, the government for loan programs or Infrastructure Ontario that has fairly strict guidelines in place, cheaper rates in some cases, but strict guidelines. This loan, particularly with our bank, will be over a 10-year period, but it will be repayable with no fees at any time. So, and second of all, we have $3 million available to us without any further applications. This will get drawn down, and as you start to think about the development of those lands, and you'll need to cash flow that development in some form or fashion, you'll also have access to this $3 million. It's again, right now it's going to be 1.5 million because you're going to debt out, or 1.8 million because you're going to take out 1.2. But as that gets paid down, the amount you have available will move forward. So again, that'll be a discussion as you develop those plans to see moving forward. But I think this has the most flexibility for you moving forward.
Okay. And just, I was curious about the amortization. It's not a 10-year amortization, is it?
No, sorry, through the mayor again, the term will be 10 years. The amortization will be 5 years. And then again, in 5 years' time, obviously you will be in a much better position to know exactly what's happening with these lands. At that point in time, you can choose to, again, term it out for the remaining amount of that 5 years, or change that term however you deem fit.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Okay, thank you. I think that, again, this is, the land purchase is positive. We know there have been developments, businesses that have left the community because we didn't have this available. So I think this will put us in a good position strategically moving forward, in spite of some of us being old, actually. So, I'll put the motion on the floor that COR 25-2025 debt financing report be received, and that the treasurer be authorized to borrow up to 1.2 million in long-term debt using the existing credit facility with BMO for the purchase of lands at 90 Carling Street, and that the balance of the net purchase price be funded by the industrial land reserves. I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Pridham, seconded by Councillor Alward. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Moving on to 8.9 with regards to a request from the mobility service. Mr. Moran, please.
Thank you. My last report tonight. Again, still learning how to use the new agenda software. So I noticed I didn't fill in the executive summary portion, so I apologize for that, Council. But this report's fairly straightforward. As we've discussed before, we receive provincial gas tax funds. Those funds go into reserve. We use them to fund operationally the mobility service on an annual basis. That comes up each budget. And then throughout the years, they also make some capital budget requests to assist with their purchase of new buses, or the last time was a used bus. They've been very successful with other forms of either donations or grants. So we haven't had to use a lot of the provincial gas tax funds to help with their capital purchases. I've listed some of that information in the report. This is actually a major repair that they had to get done very quickly to keep that bus operational. So the amount that they're requesting is $6,251. Again, our reserve sits currently, or will at the end of this year, we're estimating that reserve to sit at around $530,000, $33,000 or so. Again, this makes sense and is in essence what we had those funds available for is for capital related purchase outside of the annual operating. The one item we have talked about on a couple occasions is really helping mobility and having mobility do a better job of getting their kind of 10-year, 20-year financial capital plan in place. That is something I've confirmed they are working on, and actually have talked to the manager there to assist with that, so that we make sure we have that plan in place to share with council during the 2026 budget deliberations. That makes these type of decisions a little bit easier for everybody to understand what's happening and what might happen, and make sure that we have the right amount of funds in those reserves for the long term. But again, this $6,000, just over $6,000 request certainly isn't going to do a lot of damage to that reserve, and should keep that bus viable for another few years.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? All right, I'll put the motion on the floor then. That COR 28-2025 St. Mary's Mobility Capital Request Report be received, and the council approves the funding request of $6,251.41 for capital repairs to St. Mary's and Area Mobility Service to be funded by the Provincial Gas Tax Reserve Fund. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Edney, seconded by Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Councillor Edney?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to note that the work was done by a local business, and that local business got us a very good price. It could have been quite a bit more expensive. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you for your report, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8.10, with regards to the July monthly Emergency Services Fire Report. Chief West, are you with us this evening? Here we go.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor, Council.
No, I'm sure you're tired. You've been busy.
We have been busy. Looks like I activated the wrong camera, but we're on anyway. So, yes, we have been busy, Your Worship and Council. We had a significant fire at the Opera House. I think things went as good as they could there. We called mutual aid for support because we knew it would be a lot of people to evacuate. So that went pretty well. And being our pumper was down, that we asked Zora to help us with a backup truck just in case the aerial had an issue that night. So all our equipment worked flawlessly. The mutual aid worked really well. Sorry, I'll see if I can fix that. So really proud of the guys. We got everything in place that we needed to. We had 2 different water supplies, 2 different ladders in place. So lots of backup just for the in case. So yeah, it's been busy. We had a fire the next weekend. Didn't need mutual aid for that one. We had hydrant close by. Everything went smoothly. We evacuated. Everyone was evacuated. We had to evacuate some pets, and fire was contained to the 1 unit again. Our water team, unfortunately, was put to use this past weekend. Other things we were working on with Public Works, trying to identify hydrant mapping in town, just so we can be more efficient with what hydrants have what sort of water flow. So the idea behind that, if there's a hydrant that's a few blocks away, and if we're water shuttling out of town or at the edge of town, we know what the fill rates or the hydrants are. So it should make us a lot more efficient, be able to fill our trucks faster if we get in terms of having a large fire with needing lots of water. Calls for service, there was 10 through the period June 14th to July 11th. So far this year to date, we're up 3 calls versus last year. The fire prevention officer's doing a great job. We're kind of brainstorming, and I kind of randomly asked him about certain businesses that are maybe not on the main James Street or Queen Street and stuff. So we're hitting places we hadn't hit for a while. Anything that we do have a call to, we're paying close attention, myself and the captains, if everything looks up to date, and if they're not, we're getting the fire prevention officer to act accordingly. So he's been really busy as well because of these fires we've had. It generates a pretty substantial report that we need to do. Training wise, it's been going really well. We did advanced extrication. A couple guys came back from recent classes so they can share their new knowledge. It's always neat. Every time we train or send people out for training, there's always different ideas and ways to help individuals get them out of the cars safely and efficiently. So we did a joint exercise with Zora Fire last evening, so that went really well. We had our aerial operations. We did tanker shuttling. They had their pumper. So we had some scenarios of search and rescue. So it was good. We enjoy training with the different departments now and again, and I think we'll definitely keep continuing that. Other than that, if there's any questions, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Alward?
Thanks, Your Worship. Sorry, Chief, not a question, but I did just want to offer some commendation to you and the guys for everything with the Opera House fire. Handled wonderfully. I received a significant number of questions the night of, and Phil was kind enough to take my call early the next day, despite the lack of sleep he had, and to kind of keep me abreast and be able to reassure the public. So that was important to me, and it was important to people in town as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Luna?
Thank you, Worship. Chief, I just wanted to express my condolences to your firefighters and anybody else that was involved in that tragedy on Sunday at Wildwood, and hopefully they're receiving, care from the chaplain and following through with that. But thank you for your service in that.
Through Your Worship to Council Luna. Yes, we've reached out to our members, and the chaplain's been involved. We reminded them of the supports we have, and our programs, our peer support, and a few of them were in again today, and we had a good debrief. We talked through it after the call, and yeah, it's good to have some support, the support in place, and they know it's here. So if they need it, so and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments from council? Okay, thank you for your report, sir. So the suggested motion is that FD 09-2025 July monthly report, emergency services fire report be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, seconded. Councillor Edney, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8.11 with regards to HR monthly report. Ms. Necto, please.
Thank you, Mayor Strachty, and good evening, Council. So just one item I wanted to highlight on my report tonight, and it has to do with the market review. So I wanted to let Council know that we have started the data collection. So that involves reaching out to our comparator municipalities and asking for their information on compensation, so salary grids and something we called ancillary compensation, for example, vacation, that kind of thing. So I know we've talked about that before, the importance of making sure that our compensation lines up with comparators for recruitment and retention. So wanted to let council know this evening that that is well underway. The next step will be an analysis. In terms of timing, I would anticipate bringing more information or report to council certainly before the end of this year, then with any potential recommendations for any changes that wouldn't go into effect until 2026. So my point of highlighting this evening is just to let you know that we are well underway in terms of the data collection. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding that, or certainly anything else on the report.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from council? Councilor Pridham?
Yeah, just a little question about positions. When someone applies for a position, do they receive a notice that you've received their application, or is there any sort of acknowledgement of that?
Yeah, so there's an automated one through the system.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Curious.
And if it doesn't go through, so for example, not all of our positions, there'll be an odd one that doesn't go through the Avanti system, and it'll go through the careers one, and then I just reply directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, so the suggested motion then is that HR 09-2025, July monthly report, human resources report be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Allward, seconded. Councillor Lucas, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All is in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you for your report. Next up is with regards to the software services renewal. Ms. Necto, please.
Thank you. So this one is pretty straightforward. The software services is for Avanti, and that's the software that we use for HR administration. So what comes first to my mind is processing of payroll. And when the agreement for this software service was signed, it was in September of 2022, and it was for 36 months or 3 years. As part of that agreement, there was an automatic renewal. So if we do nothing right now, this service will automatically renew at an 8% uplift, which is the term that they use. But basically it means a rate increase of 8%. So that would happen if we do nothing. We do have an option right now, though, that we could renew it for a longer time, and that's what is provided to you in the report. So it shows, the table in the report shows 2-year renewal, 3-year renewal, 5-year renewal. The 5-year renewal is what we're seeking approval for based on the financial implication. It's a 3% increase, and it's locked in for those 5 years. So that's the purpose of this report, to share that information and ask for approval for the 5-year renewal option.
Okay, thank you. Questions with regards to renewal? Councillor Allward?
Thanks, Your Worship. Jennifer, do you know, are there many other programs and services like Avanti that you looked at or procured in the time where you were choosing this program?
So in terms of me specifically, I was actually not employed at the town when the procurement process was taking place, but I do know that there were others that were considered. So it wasn't a sole. Oh, there's my friend Andre. He's going to tell us. Super.
Andre,
through the mayor. So this procurement process was conducted with the full ERP system. So when we purchased the financial software, we also had, we were looking for a full suite of software. So what we did through that process is we had 2 stages. First stage was getting the information, and we shortlisted down to 3. Then from there, we brought in actually all staff that were basically deemed to be experts within their own areas, and conducted a full day of interviews with those three components to look at all aspects of the financial component, the HR component, the asset management component, all those components. And that's how we ended up moving forward with our financial software, which had partnerships with Avanti being one on the HR side. So it wasn't necessarily a true ERP system, but it had some partnerships that were aligned to it so that way the software is kind of work and integrate together. So that's how the process was done 3 years ago.
I guess, and I'll offer my take while I'm here. I think if it works, then it's totally fine. It sounds like staff are generally satisfied with how Avanti is done, and the idea of retraining for the sake of potentially finding something else just wouldn't make sense. It'd be too much of a headache. So the 5 years is good for me.
Okay, Councillor Edney?
Thank you, through your worship. If we're considering the 5-year, has there been any thought given to a 5-year upfront price with a further deeper reduction? Perhaps that's an Andre question as well.
If he's still on the line.
I'm sorry, would you care for me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Through the mayor. So I'm not sure, we haven't necessarily considered, and that's certainly something that I don't think they offered through their correspondence. To your point, Councillor Edney, it may be worthwhile asking that question. And we can do the math and whether or not from a cash flow perspective that makes more sense for us or less sense. But I could work with Ms. Knechtel to kind of work through that and see if that's an option. As long as you approve, if council does approve moving forward, then we can have some discussions on exactly what that looks like.
Thank you.
Councillor Craigmile?
Thank you, Worship. I think we made the decision with the ERP and whatnot, and so we finally got everything up and running. I see no reason why immediately we would change software again, so it just makes good common sense to lock it in at 3% a year for the next 5 years, because we're not going to change programs.
Okay, anything further on this? All right. Thanks for that update, Andre. So I'll put the motion on the floor then, if everyone's okay, that HR 10-2025 Software Service Renewal Report be received and that council approves the funding option for the 5-year agreement term with Avante Software Inc. as outlined in HR 10-2025 report. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, second by Councillor Luna. Any further discussion? Being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8.1.3 with regards to Public Works. Mr. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So it's been a busy month. Lots of shifting gears for staff. Everything is there in the report. We're slowly working through the 2025 capital and 25 departmental plans. Out of the norm, we've been assisting the Baseball Hall of Fame with some site works. They did have their baseball tournament past weekend. We had to get some things ready. They asked for assistance. I think it went off without a hitch. Got some good compliments. New things, we did do our first RFQ for cemetery stone repairs. So this is primarily for stone resets in the legacy sections at the cemetery, so the older sections. So it's base repairs, foundation repairs, and then realignment of the stones. So we're going to do 40 this year and see how it goes. A couple of things that are not in the report that are available now. This operator did complete the sidewalk grinding. So this is our new sidewalk tractor grinding attachment for the sidewalks. Jeff was doing some quick math, and we think we've probably saved the cost of the machine just in avoided panel replacements this far, without figuring out the cost of wages and machine time. But we're pretty happy with it. It works well. We'll probably be in the best position we've had for our annual sidewalk inspection, which was just to immediately follow. The landfill packer is still down. Repairs are progressing. We've got notification just a couple days ago. There is about another $20,000 identified in additional works for wear parts and stuff that should be replaced at the hour limit. We have been carrying that capital line for these works, so we knew this was coming, but we should be well underneath the predefined capital amount. I'll put more details in the August report once I have it. Our tandem truck just experienced a significant failure with the box pivot. It's out of service. We're working through the question of whether we should fix it or if we should just push it to auction. The new one is at the manufacturer, and it should be delivered September and October. So it's a pretty significant repair. I don't know if it's worth it to process it. Once again, I'll have more details in the August month report. Jeff is online for this one, so I'm going to ask him to run through his capital quick. There is some dates that have been updated from what's listed in the report, so maybe if he could run through the capital, and then I'll be open for any questions, or Jeff and I can take any questions. Jeff, are you there? Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to quick run through 4 of our capital projects that we have on the go right now. The first one being the Grand Trunk Trail culvert replacement. That one started last week, and I believe there is one chunk of pipe left to go in, but otherwise the culvert is finished. They'll be working on the ditching along the Grand Trunk Trail between Ingersoll and Thames Road the rest of the week. And then there'll be a couple days next week for cleanup, reestablishing the trail, repairing turf, things of that nature. So we should be wrapped up and the trail should be open mid next week. The paving program for 2025 is well underway. Right now, our operations team and I are working with on manhole and water valve adjustments before the contractor comes in to do the paving. There is a section, the 2025 contract work will happen at a later date in at least a couple of weeks. There's some pulverizing that needs to happen separately on a couple of the sections of road. So that subcontractor is sort of separate and will be scheduled separately. So that work on Witter Street and St. George and St. John and Glass, that will all happen maybe 3 weeks from now, I'm estimating. And then for the rest of the paving, they were originally anticipated to start tomorrow. I've asked them to push that back a little bit. Some of the adjustments are taking a little bit longer than we anticipated. So either later this week or potentially into next week for that paving. The Wellington Street project, that was the one from last year. I believe, I didn't get around there today, but I believe all of the sod has been installed. Contractor is responsible for ensuring that it grows, so they're watering it as they deem necessary. We did have some browning over the weekend where it looks like the grass has gone dormant. It is recoverable. We've had that on other projects as well, but it's up to the contractor to make sure that there's a catch, and then we have a warranty period where we review all the sod along with everything else to make sure that it meets specification and it doesn't allow sort of weeds to grow through in a certain concentration. The Elgin Street reconstruction project, that was the 2025, that's well underway as well. We've got all of the storm sewer works, the mainline work completed. We're working on water main work at this point this week. There will be a point early in August where we need to close part of James Street to accommodate a valve and some storm catch basin work. So I'm expecting there will be a 4-day road closure on James Street South where we'll have a detour in place. Similar to previous detours, we'll go Elgin Street to Huron, out to Queen. That'll allow them to replace or install the water valves and then install the catch basins and then get it all paved up and open it up to traffic again. So I'm thinking that would be the second week of August at this point. That was the last week we talked about there. And we are expecting that one to be completed early to mid-September. I believe that was all I had.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Reddy?
Thank you, Worship. Jed, I haven't heard any further about the work on the Grand Trunk Trail behind the Wildwood facility. So I assume everything is smoothed out and things worked out well with the contractor there?
Yeah, sorry. Through worship, yeah, that was resolved.
Fantastic, thank you. And thanks for your immediate attention to it, because it was a Friday afternoon when that happened, so thank you very much.
Love those calls on Friday afternoon.
I know.
Okay, further questions with regards to Public Works? Okay, seeing nothing, then I'll put the motion to the floor that PW 39-2025 July monthly report, Public Works report be received. Someone want to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next up, 8.14, with regards to the Queen Street West Culvert Replacement Project. I believe Mr. Wolf is going to give that report, please.
Thank you, Worship. The report in front of you today outlines a proposed capital project for 2025, so an amendment to the 2025 capital plan. We discovered some issues with the Queen Street West culvert, that it would be the Bolton municipal drain. Through inspection, we brought in our engineer. We were concerned about the type of degradation, so we brought in an engineer to take a closer look to see sort of what estimated timeline we might have before we got into some major works. They recommended immediate replacement as a result of it being Queen Street West, an arterial road. The concern was that if there was a heavy rain or thaw over the winter, that there could be erosion around the pipe, and which could potentially create a failure, which would result in a road closure. So because of the limited interconnectedness of the road network on the west end of town, and the impact that it would have on motorists, the engineer recommended replacement. So we started the preliminary design process to see what that would entail. And through that process, it was discovered that the existing culvert that was installed sometime in the late 80s, I believe, was drastically or undersized. So the current culvert is a 1.8 meter diameter CSP corrugated steel pipe culvert. And in order to meet the sort of minimum flow through capacity that we would typically look at for a structure like this, the engineer is recommending a 2 meter by 4 meter precast concrete box culvert. There are some advantages to that type of construction. It would allow a relatively quick turnaround during construction, where we would likely, there would need to be a road closure, but it would be limited to a week. Where the contractor would need to remove the old culvert and then reinstall the precast concrete structure, and then get it at least to gravel where motorists could travel over it again. And there would be likely some modified version of traffic control following that. The anticipated project cost, including construction, engineering, and approvals, is $602,500. And we are proposing funding the project. It's outlined in the report, but basically looking at collecting savings from other capital projects in the 2025 capital plan, from savings that we've seen on other projects, as well as deferring the Queen Street East culvert project. That was a municipal drain project that our drainage engineer has informed us we wouldn't likely be able to get to construction until mid-December. Sort of at the earliest, so they were suggesting that we push that to 2026 construction, and then we are also recommending the shortfall come from the roads reserves, so that was $86,500. I believe I ran through all the items I wanted to, but yeah, we're recommending that we modify the 2025 capital plan by adding project number 67, Queen Street Queen Street West culvert replacement, as detailed in the report.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Pridham?
Thank you, through your worship. Just a question about the water flow. So that's going to increase water flow on significant rain events, and that water will then enter areas that are not used to seeing that kind of water flow. And I think that would end up on Elgin Street West. Is there a culvert there that's big enough to support that capacity?
The original modeling, we haven't looked at downstream culverts, but the original modeling that was done for the Bolton drain was completed with a larger culvert in this location. So there used to be a much larger culvert here, And
Okay.
then it was my sort of hearsay, but my understanding is that sometime in the 80s there was either partial or complete failure where they needed to immediately replace it, and that meant kind of finding whatever they could find immediately. So it was a smaller diameter structure that went back in. So originally, when all of the drainage work was done on the Bolton drain, it was done so with a larger culvert here in this location.
Okay, so we're returning to what it was originally intended to be. That's, okay, that's fair.
Essentially, yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Okay, if nothing, I'll put the motion on the floor then, that council approve project number 67, Queen Street West Culvert Repair, to be added as an amendment to the town's capital plan with funding as described in PW 38-2025 Queen Street West Culvert Repair Project Report. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Everyone okay to keep going, or do we want 5 minutes, or no? Everyone okay? Okay, then we'll go on to council reports then. There are 2 items in your package. One we will vote on, with, bring up with regards to the police service budget. The other one I wanted to point out, 9.6, with regards to 14 Church Street. It'll be discussed at our meeting on August 26th, just so everyone's clear on that. But we'll give reports as per usual around the horseshoe. I'll ask Councillor Craigmile to begin, please.
Thank you, Worship. So the only meetings that I attended since our last meeting there was Blue Water Resources, and there's really nothing new to report. They haven't heard back yet for the ICNI, so they're still working on it and trying to get something out in August so that Jed and his staff have something to work with. We've already talked about it tonight, but last night there was a PAC meeting. It was really on the 11 Kane Street. People were there talking. It was a good discussion, a positive discussion. When I left, I felt like everybody thought it was really good for the community, and most of the comments were no different than what we would hear at any other public meeting when it gets to council, which I'm assuring will be probably relatively soon.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Edney.
Thank you, Worship. I've had a extremely light last couple of weeks, with the exception of just meeting with citizens. The only thing that I need to bring forward would be the budget reconciliation here for 2025 from the CPAC. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Luna, please.
Thank you, Worship. I have also had a light month. The 2 boards that I'm involved in have not been meeting for the summer, so we did meet for the Perth Municipal Planning Day, and everything is right on schedule for that. We have the caterer and speakers lined up, so that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Anything for Councillor Luna? Okay, Councillor Lucas, please.
I too have had a very light month, which is awesome. Yeah, no heritage meeting, but we do have one coming up next month. PAC meeting, just to follow up with Councillor Craigmile. It was a great presentation. I'm excited to see more housing stock added to our community, and I think it's a really appropriate use of that property. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And other than that, I have nothing to.
Okay, thank you. Anything from council? Okay, Councillor Pridham, please.
I too have had a very light schedule, and so I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Alward?
I never stop. It's just both Green Committee and Library actually haven't met since June, so I have nothing to report on that side of things, but BIA did meet just a few weeks ago. So we just kind of did a preamble for Heritage Festival, got everything sort of nailed down. That sort of, the process of assigning vendors this year was more allocated to the BIA, so it was more on us to go and communicate with different store owners, which vendors may be in front of their store, and to try and work out how to mitigate conflicts, because it is a continuing source of conflict each year that certain vendors end up in front of certain stores, and that seems it will continue. Nonetheless, We're working on our website. The BIA will indeed have its own website. We're currently working on trying to get the domain name from the town. I guess the domain name Downtown St. Mary's still belongs to the town somewhere. We're working with Brad and IT to try and figure that out. Other than that, I think I have pretty well nothing else to report. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councilor Alberg? Okay, I do want to just give a shout out to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Had 52 teams compete in a tournament this weekend honoring Jim Lutton, who is a volunteer that's been heavily involved with Baseball Ontario. And we had a lot of visitors to town, to the quarry as well, and it was very successful. And hopefully we see more of that in the future, and they did a really good job. So. Okay, so I'll do a two-step process here then. So we'll pass the reports, and then we'll deal with the police reconciliation if anyone has any questions with regards to that. So the first motion I put on the floor that would be that committee and board minutes listed on our agenda item 9.1 to 9.19 be received, and that the verbal updates provided by council representative on those committees and board meetings be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Councillor Edney moves, seconded. Councillor Pridham, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So the second item then, as a result, as printed, Councillor Edney alluded to that, the Police Services Committee, the CPAC Committee, did have the operating and capital budget discussed there. So as a result of that, it was recommended to Council, the following motion, that Council approve the 2025 Stratford Police operating and capital budget for St. Mary's. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Luna, seconded. Councillor Edney, any discussion? Councillor Edney?
I just want to mention, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to mention that the Park Patrol is one of the best investments this town has made. I believe it was 6 o'clock Sunday evening. I was out for a walk, and I watched the Park Patrol come along the path, say hello to everyone they met along the way. They have been highly visible, and they are just fantastic ambassadors. I looked at it through a lens of someone from outside of town, and seeing those two very nice people coming through and greeting everyone. What a great program. Not just do we have someone watching over our town, but they work well as ambassadors as well. So it has been a really good investment that we've made through the Stratford Police to have those ambassadors, the Park Patrol here.
Okay, thank you for that. And I know hats off to the clerk department as well. They've been working closely with them for areas where concerns get raised, and through bylaw enforcement as well, which has been education as well, not always enforcement, education as well. So I know that Jenna and her staff have worked really hard to make the program effective. So thank you for that, Councillor Edney. Anything further with regards to the police budget? Councillor Craig Mount?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's an appropriate time because, you know, this is the 2025 is halfway through, and we're just now getting this now, but it's not that we haven't been doing our due diligence. It's we had no idea they're always 6 months behind. So this is not extra funds they're looking for. It's just we had no idea what the actual budget was going to be, and maybe we were a little late in what we put away, what we thought the budget. That's my assumption. Is that not correct?
I'll defer to our CEO.
Yep. So I'm happy to speak to this, and it's kind of my preamble to CPAC every year is that in our agreement with the Stratford Police, when it was written, there was a vision that they would produce a budget for us each year ahead of our budget schedule, and that this process would happen where the draft budget would go to CPAC. CPAC would review it on behalf of council and then make a recommendation to council, and then you would eventually bless that as part of your normal budget process. The way the process actually unfolds is that our corporate budget process is ahead of the city of Stratford's by about a month or two. And the police really don't feel comfortable providing us a full draft budget until it has gone through their police services board first and then the city second. So typically what happens in the budget each year is that in around September and October, when we are preparing our budgets for consideration to council, I'll meet with the Deputy Chief of Police to get a sense of what they are projecting for a cost increase, and he'll give me, we'll say a rough but a safe estimate, and then we'll build that into our budget. And I believe this year it was either, you have to forgive me because I'll mix years, it was either 6 or 9% this year. I think it was 6% this year actually. And then they'll give us a forecast of our capital costs. So that's what we use to drive our budget. And then typically in around January, February, March, when the city passes their budget, we'll get our formal budget memo from from the police saying, here's what your actual increase is. And then we then go through the process with CPAC. And this year with CPAC, it's just a little bit differently because we were meeting less frequently. So we're meeting more on a quarterly basis. So this memo came in March. It came to CPAC at their next available meeting, which was June, and now council's seeing it. So it's well in hand, and it's something that we could open up our agreement and amend it. But so far, we have a fairly friendly relationship with the police, and although we're not following the terms of the agreement perfectly in the schedule that we had aligned, the intent's still being met, and we still have plenty of budget input.
And if I can just add another point to that, is that when I look at the total cost, whether it's 1.39 million or something like that, if I go back maybe 7 years ago before we started with them, we were probably closer to 1.2 or something. So all in all, this has been a great transition.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, so I'll call that motion to question then. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to number 10, emergent or unfinished business. I have nothing, no notices of motions, which brings us to bylaws, and there are 3 bylaws that were put forth, and the third one with regard to deputy treasurer. I'll defer. I don't need to read them as long as I just put the motion. Okay. So then I'll put the first one on the floor, then that bylaw 44-2025 be approved by council. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Lucas. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. The second one being that bylaw 46-2025 be approved by council. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And finally, the third with regards to an interim treasurer, that bylaw 47-2025 be approved by council. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Lucas, seconded by Councillor Luna. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Which brings us to item number 13, upcoming meetings. We have a full day scheduled to free up some time in August, and there's a bunch of reports that are coming forth, one of them being 14 Church Street, as well as we have, I think, 3 different delegations scheduled for that time, so it will be a full day. But as I say, it will free up time for the rest of the month, and I think it's an efficient use of time. So again, 9 a.m. strategic priorities immediately followed by council meeting after, and we may even have a site plan, I believe, or a public meeting if things proceed. The plan right now is that, to Councillor Craigmile's point, we may be ready to move forward on depending on a few in the works. Are there any other upcoming meetings or things that council wants to mention for the benefit of the public? Councillor Alward?
I will just mention that the library's end of summer barbecues tomorrow, 5 to 7, just at the Cenotaph.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Eddy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's equally appropriate to mention that tomorrow evening, we will, at the fire department, we will be looking to say thank you to Brian Leverton and Andy for their, and I believe there was another firefighter.
Lucas Jeffrey.
Lucas Jeffrey, thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that. Anything further? Okay, so that leads us to item number 14, which is our confirmation bylaw. The suggested motion is that bylaw 45-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the July 22nd, 2025 regular council meeting, be approved by council. Someone going to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Edney, seconded by Councillor Luna. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And finally, item number 15, the suggested motion that this regular meeting of council be adjourned at 8:17 p.m. So I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconded. Councillor Luna. All in favor? The motion is carried. Thank